The alien city of Illyrian was full of sound, machines humming, ships flying, voices echoing in the sky. But high above that noisy world stood a mansion where silence ruled like a ghost. Inside that golden home lived Leora, the only daughter of Ziran, an alien billionaire whose power reached across planets. The mansion had glowing walls, servants of every kind, and technology that could build stars, but no sound ever touched Leora's ears. She was born deaf. Every morning, Ziran watched his daughter from afar. He tried to smile, but his eyes always carried sadness. He had bought sound translators, brain-link devices, and sonic healers from 10 worlds, yet nothing worked. His little girl never heard his voice, not once. Sometimes he would stand behind her and whisper her name, Leora, hoping some miracle would happen, but she would just sit still, playing with her glowing toys, her face calm and empty. The mansion had hundreds of workers. Robots cleaned the halls, alien servants cooked meals, guards patrolled the gates. Yet for all its life, it was a place without laughter. Everyone whispered when they saw Leora, afraid to disturb her. She was beautiful, with silver blue skin and eyes that shined like moons, but her silence made the air heavy. One day, a new worker arrived. He was not from Illyrian, not even from this system. His name was Daniel, a human janitor from Earth. He had lost everything years ago, his wife, his home, and his dreams. Now he worked small jobs across alien worlds to care for his little daughter back home. He took the janitor job at the mansion because it paid enough to send food credits to Earth. Daniel didn't know much about aliens or billionaires. To him, a mess was a mess, no matter whose floor it was. He worked quietly, carrying his tools, cleaning the great glass corridors, fixing light panels, mopping glowing marble floors that stretched like rivers of light. The first time he saw Leora, he didn't even realize who she was. She was sitting by the wide window, sketching something on a floating pad. The stars reflected off her pale face. She looked fragile, like a dream caught between worlds. Daniel slowed his steps, careful not to scare her. But when she looked up, their eyes met. She didn't speak, but she gave a small nod as if to say hello. Daniel smiled back and kept moving, but something about her stayed in his mind. She looked lonely. Not the kind of loneliness that comes from being alone, but the kind that comes when no one truly reaches you. Days passed. Daniel saw her again and again in the same spot, always drawing, always quiet. He started to notice small things. She liked to draw planets. She liked to touch the window glass when it rained. And she always looked toward the sky like she was waiting to hear something from it. One night, while Daniel was cleaning near the grand hall, he overheard 2 servants whispering. "That's the billionaire's daughter," one said. "She can't hear a single sound. Not even her own heartbeat." Daniel froze. He looked again toward the window where Leora sat, bathed in silver light. His chest felt heavy. He remembered his own daughter, Emma, how she used to talk to him every night before he left for work. He couldn't imagine not hearing her voice. After that night, Daniel started leaving small drawings near Leora's chair. Funny sketches of humans slipping on soap or spaceships bumping into moons. The next day, he saw her smiling faintly while holding one. It was a small smile, but it lit the entire hall. She drew something back for him, a stick figure of a man holding a mop under the stars. That was their language. No sound. No words. Just drawings left in silence. Every night when everyone slept, Daniel cleaned the upper halls. He liked the quiet. But one evening, as a storm rolled across the alien sky, the power suddenly went out. The mansion lights died. The walls flickered. Alarms buzzed. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and ran to check the systems. Then he saw her, Leora, alone near the broken window. She was trembling. Lightning flashed, lighting her face with fear. Daniel rushed toward her and gently put a hand on her shoulder. She turned quickly, eyes wide. He raised his hand, showing her the light. "It's okay," he whispered, though he knew she couldn't hear. But something strange happened. As his fingers brushed near her ears, the air shimmered faintly, like invisible ripples spreading through space. Leora blinked. Her head turned slightly, her eyes darting toward the storm outside. For the first time, her lips parted in shock. She could feel something new. The sound of rain. Daniel didn't notice it at first. He only saw her expression change from fear to wonder. Tears filled her eyes. She reached out, grabbing his hand tightly. He froze, confused, but didn't pull away. In that silent mansion, under the dim light of his flashlight, Something impossible had just begun, a miracle no alien machine could make, born from the touch of a simple human hand. And the mansion, once silent, would never be the same again. The next morning, the mansion seemed different. The halls that had always felt cold now carried something new, a strange kind of warmth that even the robotic cleaners couldn't explain. Daniel arrived early, still thinking about the night before. He kept replaying the moment in his mind. The storm, the darkness, Leora's terrified eyes, and that brief shimmer in the air when his fingers brushed her ear. It felt unreal. He told himself it must have been a trick of light, maybe static from the storm. But deep inside, something told him it was more. When Daniel entered the grand hall, he saw Leora sitting near the same window again. Her glowing pad lay untouched, and she looked restless, like she was waiting for something, or someone. Her pale fingers moved slowly along the glass, tracing invisible lines as if she was feeling the soundless rhythm of the world. Daniel hesitated. He didn't want to frighten her, but before he could step away, Leora turned and saw him. Her face lit up, and for the first time she smiled wide. Then she pointed to her ears, her lips moving soundlessly. Daniel frowned, unsure what she meant, but she kept gesturing, first at her ears, then at the window, then at him. Finally, she picked up her drawing pad and scribbled something. When she turned it toward him, it said, "Rain, I heard it." Daniel froze. He looked at the words again and again. His throat tightened. She couldn't have heard anything, she was deaf. Everyone said so, but the look in her eyes wasn't confusion. It was wonder. He knelt down beside her and slowly wrote back, "Are you sure?" She nodded quickly, her silver hair brushing her shoulders. Then she wrote, "It was soft. It made my heart shake." Daniel felt a chill. Maybe it was just imagination, he thought. Maybe she felt the vibration instead of hearing it. But when she gently touched his hand and placed it near her ear again, something happened. Something he couldn't explain. A soft hum filled the air, faint but real. Even he could feel it vibrate under his skin. Leora gasped and looked around. She pointed toward the far end of the hall where a water fountain trickled. She stood up and ran toward it, eyes wide with excitement. Daniel followed, unsure what to do. She leaned close to the flowing water, watching the drops fall, and then her lips trembled. A tear slid down her cheek. She was hearing it, truly hearing it. From that day, everything changed between them. Whenever Daniel came to work, Leora would wait. She began to follow him silently, watching how he cleaned, fixed things, and talked to machines. She couldn't understand his words, but she watched his lips and tried to mimic the shapes. Sometimes she laughed quietly when he made funny faces while mopping. It became their secret routine, a friendship built from gestures and drawings instead of words. Daniel knew the staff was starting to notice. They whispered about how the billionaire's daughter had started smiling again, how she spent her time with the human janitor. Some found it touching, others thought it was strange. But Leora didn't care. The silence that had once been her prison was now fading. Every time Daniel came near, she felt tiny vibrations in the air, warm, human, alive. One afternoon, while cleaning the garden dome, Daniel found her waiting again. She had flowers in her hands, bright, glowing ones that pulsed softly in rhythm. She placed one in his palm and wrote, "It hums like your hand." He chuckled. "I guess we both make the world a little noisy now," he said softly, though he knew she couldn't hear the words. But then her eyes blinked and her lips parted slightly as if she caught something, just a faint echo of his voice. Daniel stared. She looked shocked, then happy. Her hand flew to her chest, feeling her heartbeat race. At that exact moment, something deep inside Daniel stirred. He didn't know why his touch affected her. He wasn't special, just a broken man trying to survive. But every time he helped her, it was as if some hidden energy inside him awakened. A soft pulse that bridged two worlds. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Leora stood by the same window again, listening to the world she was finally beginning to hear. The raindrops on the glass sang their quiet song, and she smiled, touching her ears softly, whispering the word she had learned to form from watching Daniel's lips. Sound. And somewhere, deep in the mansion's lower halls, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what he had done. He didn't know that his small act of kindness had already reached the ears of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Tomorrow, the billionaire himself would call for him. The next morning began like any other day, but inside the mansion the air felt alive. Servants whispered. Guards exchanged confused glances, and the head scientist of the estate ran endless scans through the night. Something impossible had happened. Zoran's deaf daughter claimed she had heard the rain. The story spread like wildfire through every corridor. When Zoran walked into the hall, his face was harder than stone. For years he had tried everything. Doctors, machines, and alien healers from across the stars. But none could fix his daughter's ears. Now suddenly a human janitor had done what no one could. It made no sense. And yet when he saw Leora laughing by the fountain, something in his heart broke and healed at the same time. He hadn't seen that smile since the day she was born. Leora turned as he entered. She ran to him and grabbed his hand, her eyes glowing bright. Her lips moved, slow, careful. Father, Zoran froze. The word was faint, broken, but real. He dropped to his knees, trembling. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. She could hear him crying softly, though she didn't know why. For her, it was the most beautiful sound she had ever known. But soon, reality returned. Zoran's sharp mind took over. He ordered every scientist and healer in his empire to the mansion immediately. Find the reason, he commanded. Find out how this happened now. The team worked without rest. Machines scanned Leora's brain, her ears, her cells. They found new signals, something like energy patterns that pulsed inside her. But the strange part was, they weren't coming from her alone. They seemed to echo from another source inside the mansion. Zoran frowned. Who was with her that night? He demanded. A servant hesitated. Sir, the human janitor. Zoran's golden eyes narrowed. Bring him. Daniel was sweeping the lower hall when 2 guards arrived. The master wants you, now. He didn't know what to think. Maybe he broke something. Maybe he was getting fired. But as the guards escorted him through glowing doors into a huge room filled with alien scientists, he realized this was something far bigger. Zoran stood in the center, tall and intimidating, surrounded by screens of pulsing light. Leora was sitting nearby, watching him with worried eyes. Daniel bowed awkwardly. Sir, I didn't mean to do anything wrong. The billionaire studied him like a puzzle. My daughter says she heard sound. My machines confirm something impossible happened that night. Tell me what you did. Daniel rubbed his hands together nervously. I just helped her during the storm, sir. She was scared. I touched her ear. That's all? Leora stood up and signed something quickly. One of the translators nearby whispered. She says it's true. She heard sound when he touched her. The room fell silent. Zoran scientists surrounded Daniel, holding scanners near his hands. The devices beeped and flashed. Strange energy readings filled the air, gentle waves of frequency that resonated like music no one could hear. This is human energy, one of them said. But it's pure empathy resonance, not technology. Not medical. Emotional frequency at molecular level. Daniel blinked. I don't understand any of that. Zoran leaned closer. You mean your emotion, your compassion did this? The scientist nodded. Only humans have this pattern. It reacts when their emotions are honest and strong. Zoran stared at Daniel, and for the first time, the billionaire who owned half the solar system felt small. He had spent his life buying stars, but this janitor carried something priceless within his hands, a power born from kindness. He dismissed the scientists and looked at Daniel alone. Can you help her again? Daniel hesitated. If it helps her, I'll try. He turned toward Leora, who was already watching him with bright hope. Slowly, he knelt and gently touched her ears once more. Everyone held their breath. A soft hum filled the air, like the whisper of 1,000 tiny bells. Leora gasped and covered her mouth, tears falling. She could hear the hum, the rustle of clothes, the distant hum of machines, and then she spoke again, clearer this time. I can hear you. Zoran stepped back, unable to move. His hands trembled. His empire's greatest scientists had failed, yet one human, one man with no power, no wealth, had brought sound into his daughter's world. For a long moment, no one said a word. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful, full of awe. Finally, Zoran spoke quietly. You've done what my fortune could not. Tell me, Daniel, what do you want in return? Daniel smiled softly. Nothing, sir. I just wanted her not to be afraid anymore. That answer struck Zoran deeper than any weapon. The billionaire who ruled with power realized that day there was something stronger than money, stronger than science, something only a human heart could give. As Daniel left the hall, whispers followed him. Some called him a miracle worker. Others said he carried a divine energy. But for Leora, he was simply the man who gave her sound, and a friend who filled her silent world with life. And somewhere in that vast mansion, a story began to spread, the story of the human touch that defied science and changed an entire world. The following day, the golden mansion of Zeran pulsed with tension. Every servant walked quietly. Every scientist moved carefully, afraid of the storm building behind the billionaire's calm face. News of the miracle had already begun to spread across nearby planets. Some said it was divine, others claimed it was human trickery. Zeran couldn't decide what to believe. All he knew was that his daughter could now hear, and the only explanation pointed to the most unlikely person in the galaxy, a human janitor. Daniel arrived for work like any other day, pushing his mop and tools down the shining corridor. He was unaware of the guards following him until they surrounded him near the lift. "Master Zeran requests your presence," one said, his voice cold. Daniel blinked, confused, but nodded. He had no idea that behind those tall silver doors waited a room filled with scientists, holograms and tension thicker than metal. As he stepped in, Leora's face lit up. She tried to rush forward, but her father gently held her back. "Not yet," Zeran said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with curiosity. He gestured for Daniel to come closer. "You, human, tell me exactly what you did." Daniel scratched his neck nervously. "Sir, I told you before." "I didn't do anything special." She was scared. I comforted her, and when I touched her ear, she said she could hear. "Show me." The words hit like thunder. Daniel looked at Leora. She nodded, her eyes warm with trust. Slowly, he knelt beside her. The room fell silent, every alien watching. He gently placed his fingers near her ears again, just like before. A faint shimmer pulsed through the air, a wave of energy so soft yet so powerful that it made every scanner in the room light up. Leora gasped, tears forming in her eyes once more. "I can hear it again," she whispered. The hum faded, leaving silence. Zeran's expression hardened. "What is this power?" "Some kind of human trick?" Daniel shook his head quickly. "No, sir. I swear I don't know how it works." The head scientist, an alien with 4 eyes and a mechanical arm, stepped forward. "We've studied him, sir. His touch produces low-frequency empathy waves, something unseen in our kind. It's emotional resonance. His compassion created a bridge between his energy and your daughter's damaged hearing nerves." Zeran frowned deeply.
"So you're saying he healed her not with machines,
"But with emotion?" "Yes," the scientist replied. "His feelings acted as energy. Pure empathy, no greed, no expectation. That is why it worked." The billionaire turned away, silent. He looked out the tall glass wall where his planet's twin suns burned like golden coins. For so long he had believed that power came from wealth, that everything could be bought or engineered. But this man, this janitor, had proved him wrong. Finally, Zeran spoke without turning. "Daniel, if this gift is real, then you are valuable. Too valuable to remain a janitor." He turned, eyes glowing. "You will stay here. You will work only for me and my daughter. I will triple your salary, give your family a home, and make you richer than any human alive." Daniel hesitated. The offer sounded unbelievable, but his heart felt uneasy. "Sir, I'm thankful, truly. But I'm not special. I don't need riches. I just wanted to help her." Zeran's voice sharpened. "This is not a choice. You are under my protection now. I cannot risk losing you." The guards moved slightly closer. Leora saw the fear on Daniel's face and quickly stepped in front of him. "Father, please, don't force him. He helped me because he cared, not because he was ordered." For a moment, the great billionaire and his daughter stared at each other. Zeran's pride fought against his love. Then he sighed heavily and raised his hand, signaling the guards to stop. "Very well," he said quietly, "but he will stay here until I understand this power." That night, Daniel was given a private room near the garden dome. He sat by the window, staring at the alien stars. He missed his own daughter back on Earth. He wondered if she was asleep, if she still drew him pictures like before. "I need to send her credits soon," he whispered. But his words were lost in the vast silence of the alien night. In another wing, Leora sat beside her father. She could now hear the gentle hum of the mansion, the quiet music of machines that had once meant nothing. yet her heart was heavy.
You scare him, Father, she said softly.
I only wish to understand him, Zoran replied. If one human can do this, imagine what could be done with many. But Leora shook her head. You don't understand. It's not about power. It's about kindness. Zoran looked at her for a long time. For the first time, he had no answer. As the night grew deep, Daniel lay awake, unaware that across galaxies others had already begun to talk about him. The mysterious human who cured the billionaire's deaf daughter with nothing but a touch. Some called it a miracle, others called it danger. And in the shadows of the stars, powerful beings began to take notice. Because in a universe ruled by machines and money, the greatest force of all had just awakened, the heart of a human. Days turned into weeks inside the mansion, but nothing felt normal anymore. Cameras followed Daniel's every move. Scientists ran silent tests. Guards watched him during every shift, and strange machines hummed whenever he touched anything. He had never felt more trapped. He missed his small, quiet life back on Earth. Missed his daughter, Emma, whose smile gave him strength every day. Still, he stayed, because of Leora. Every morning she would run to greet him. Her hearing had improved so much that she could now understand words when people spoke slowly. Her laughter filled the halls that once knew only silence. Sometimes she would sit beside Daniel as he worked, repeating the names of things he said: light, floor, sky. Her voice was soft, unsure but alive. For Daniel, that was worth more than all the credits in the galaxy. One afternoon, while fixing a broken cleaning bot, Daniel noticed something odd. The small robot was equipped with an energy sensor, and every time he got close to Leora, its readings spiked. He frowned and tried again. The bot beeped louder. It wasn't reading heat or electricity. It was reacting to him. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat in his small room thinking about what the scientists had said. Emotional resonance. He remembered his time years ago working at a human research lab called Project Reason. Back then, they studied how empathy and human touch could affect healing rates. He was just a maintenance worker there, but he'd overheard enough to know they were close to something big before the lab shut down. Could that be what's happening now? He whispered. Did something from that place stay inside me? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. Leora stood at the door, holding her drawing pad. You're not asleep, she said shyly. Her voice had gotten clearer, stronger. Daniel smiled. Guess I'm not. She stepped inside, holding up a small device glowing with pale blue light. I found this, she said. Father's scientists dropped it near your room. It has your name. Daniel froze. He took the device and saw a holographic label, Subject H09 Resonance Carrier Human. His stomach turned cold. Subject? He muttered. Leora looked worried. What does it mean? He sighed and sat down. It means I was part of something before I came here. A human experiment. They said it failed, but maybe it didn't. He looked at his hands. Maybe they changed me even if I didn't know it. Leora shook her head quickly. No, you didn't heal me because of science. You healed me because you cared. Her words hit deep. He wanted to believe her, but part of him feared she was wrong. Later that night, Daniel decided to sneak into the lab wing of the mansion. He had to know what Zoran's scientists were doing. The hallways were dark and quiet, the air filled with the low hum from the mansion's energy core. He slipped through the metal doors and found a glowing table covered in holograms. On it was a chart labeled Human Empathic Frequency, Active Subject Daniel Cross. They had been studying him like a specimen. He scrolled through the data, reading notes written in alien script. Translation text blinked across the screen. Human emotional resonance has the power to modify neural pathways. Controlled exposure may enhance sensory systems. Subject unaware of full potential. Daniel's heart raced. They weren't just observing him, they were planning to use him. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind him. I thought you might come here. He turned sharply. It was Zoran, standing tall in the doorway, his eyes glowing gold in the dim light. You lied to me, Daniel said quietly. You said you wanted to understand. You're turning me into a weapon. Zoran didn't deny it. Do you have any idea what this means? Your energy could heal millions. You could change entire species. Why hide it? Daniel shook his head. Because it's not yours to use. It's not power, it's empathy. You can't own compassion. For a moment, neither moved. The tension felt heavy, electric. Then a small voice spoke from the hall. "Father, stop!" Leora stood there, tears in her eyes. "You can't hurt him. He gave me life." Siran's expression softened, torn between ambition and love. "Leora, I only want to protect our world." "You can't protect the world by breaking hearts," she said. Daniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he said softly. "I understand now. The real power isn't in me. It's in all of us when we choose to care." Siran lowered his head, silent. The truth was clear, and it burned like light through darkness. That night, Siran shut down the experiments, but Daniel knew something bigger had begun, something that couldn't be stopped. Because somewhere deep within, the hidden truth had been revealed. The human heart could change the universe, not through science, but through feeling, and soon the rest of the galaxy would find out. Within days, the story escaped the mansion walls and exploded across the stars. No matter how hard Siran tried to contain it, someone leaked the footage. The moment when a human janitor touched the ears of the alien billionaire's deaf daughter. And she suddenly heard sound for the first time. The galaxy's networks flooded with headlines. "The human touch janitor heals the unhealable." "Alien billionaire's daughter saved by Earthman." "Miracle or danger?" "The emotion that defies science." Billions watched the clip in awe. Across different worlds, beings who had never cared about humanity now looked toward Earth with new curiosity. Some with hope, and others with fear. Daniel's life changed overnight. He was no longer just a janitor. Everywhere he went, eyes followed him. Reporters swarmed the mansion gates. Alien priests called him a child of light. Scientists called him evolution in motion. Governments called him a potential threat. But Daniel didn't want any of it. He just wanted peace. Inside the mansion, Leora watched the chaos unfold on her holoscreen. She was happy the universe finally believed in her miracle, but she hated how they treated Daniel, like a tool, a weapon, or a myth. She sneaked through the mansion halls until she found him sitting alone in the garden dome. He looked tired, staring at the stars above. "They're talking about you everywhere," she said softly, her voice now clear and confident. Daniel smiled faintly. "Yeah, I heard. Are you angry?" He shook his head. "Not angry. Just sad. I didn't fix you for the fame. I did it because you were scared. Because you reminded me of my daughter." Leora sat beside him. "You made me hear the world, Daniel. Maybe the galaxy needs to hear it too." Her words lingered like soft music in the air. Meanwhile, Siran faced a new storm. His fellow leaders demanded explanations. Some accused him of hiding dangerous human technology. Others begged for his help. Trade partners threatened to cut ties if he didn't share the secret. At a council meeting broadcast live across the systems, Siran stood tall before hundreds of alien leaders. "This was not technology," he said firmly. "This was humanity. A man from a world we called primitive has shown us something beyond our science, compassion that creates miracles." The council chamber erupted. Some cheered. Some shouted in disbelief. "What if this emotion is weaponized?" One leader barked. "What if humans can control our minds with it?" Another warned. Siran raised his hand. "You fear what you do not understand. The human healed not because of greed, not because of control, but because of care. Tell me, when was the last time any of us did something with no reward?" The silence that followed was heavier than any law. Back on Illyrian, Daniel couldn't step outside without drones following him. The galaxy had split into two groups, those who wanted to worship him and those who wanted to dissect him. Even Earth's own leaders tried to contact him, claiming he belonged to them. Leora watched as her father's mansion filled with guards again, not to protect her, but to protect Daniel. The billionaire had changed too. His pride had softened. He no longer saw Daniel as a subject of study, but as a friend. One evening he entered the garden where Daniel and Leora were sitting. The twin suns had set and soft lights glowed under the trees. Siran walked slowly, almost humble. "The universe is talking about you," he said, "and I fear it won't stop." Daniel nodded. "I know. But we can't hide forever," Siran sighed. "They will come for you, Daniel. They will want to use you, to own what you have." Daniel looked at him calmly. "What I have isn't mine. It's in every person who still feels something real." Leora smiled. "Then let's show them what it really means." The next day, Siran surprised the galaxy again. He announced a grand event, a universal broadcast. Billions tuned in to watch as he stood beside Daniel and Leora. This man, Ziran began, was once a janitor, a human with no power, no wealth, yet his heart healed what no empire could. He showed my daughter sound and showed me truth. So today I declare the creation of the Human Alliance Foundation, built not on politics, not on money, but on empathy. The crowd watching across worlds went silent. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady and simple. "I'm not special," he said. "I just cared. And maybe that's what this universe has forgotten, to care without wanting something back." Leora took his hand, smiling brightly. He gave me sound. But more than that, he gave us hope. The broadcast ended, but the message didn't fade. Across distant planets, hearts began to change. A miner helped a wounded worker instead of ignoring him. A soldier spared an enemy for the first time. A child hugged their parent, whispering, "I love you." The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, listened not to machines but to its own heart. And at the center of it all, in a mansion once filled with silence, a young alien girl and a tired human janitor watched the stars together, knowing that kindness had become louder than war. Months passed, and the mansion that was once a cage of silence had become a home of laughter and warmth. Leora could now hear everything, the wind brushing against the glass walls, the soft hum of lights, even her father's heartbeat when he hugged her. The galaxy had changed too. People spoke less about power and more about kindness, and everywhere Daniel went, strangers bowed, thanking him for proving that the human heart was stronger than any weapon. But Daniel never saw himself as a hero. He still swept the same halls, fixed broken machines, and smiled at servants as if nothing had changed. What mattered most to him was seeing Leora live freely, no longer trapped in silence. Sometimes he would just sit in the garden dome and watch her listen to the birds, tears quietly forming in his eyes. Ziran, however, was still restless. His empire was now famous for compassion, but fame wasn't what he wanted anymore. Watching Daniel changed him. The alien billionaire had spent his entire life chasing control, buying planets, building armies, hoarding technology. But in the end, it wasn't power that saved his daughter. It was a janitor's touch. One evening, Ziran invited Daniel to the top of the mansion tower. From there, the stars looked close enough to touch. "Do you know why I brought you here?" he asked. Daniel shrugged. "To clean the view panels?" Ziran laughed softly for the first time in years. "No, to thank you. Properly." He turned, his golden eyes reflecting the twin suns. "You gave me something that all my riches couldn't. You gave me my daughter's laughter." Daniel looked down, embarrassed. "You don't have to thank me, sir. But I do," Ziran said. "You see, I spent my life trying to fix everything with machines. But he paused, you fixed what truly mattered. Not her ears, Daniel. You fixed her hope." There was silence between them for a moment, filled only by the hum of the wind. Then Ziran continued, "I am disbanding half of my military contracts. Instead, I will fund hospitals and schools, places where healing and empathy can grow. All in the name of the Human Alliance Foundation." Daniel smiled faintly. "That's a big change." "It's the right one," Ziran said. But just as peace settled, a message arrived. A distress call from the outer colonies. A transport ship had crashed on a radiation-filled moon. Hundreds were trapped inside and communication signals were failing. The rescue teams reported strange interference preventing energy stabilizers from working. Daniel watched the report quietly, feeling something stir inside him. "Those people, they're dying," Ziran frowned. "No machine can survive that radiation. No one can reach them." Leora looked up from her chair. "Maybe someone can." She turned to Daniel, her eyes glowing with determination. "Your resonance, it fixed me. Maybe it can shield them too." Daniel hesitated. He had never used his ability intentionally. It always just happened, driven by emotion. But when he looked at the scared faces on the hollow screen, he knew he couldn't ignore them. "I'll go," he said simply. Ziran stepped forward. "You'll die out there." Daniel shook his head. "If I can help them, maybe it's worth it." Within hours, the rescue craft launched. Leora insisted on coming, refusing to let him face danger alone. As they descended onto the moon's stormy surface, radiation alarms blared, lights flickered, and machines began to fail. But when Daniel reached out, placing his hand on the ship's metal hull, the alarms dimmed. The deadly energy around them seemed to bend, forming a faint blue shield. Leora stared in awe. "You're doing it," she whispered. They broke through the storm, reaching the crash site. Dozens of injured beings lay trapped inside broken pods. Daniel's hands glowed faintly as he touched them one by one. The radiation faded wherever his skin met theirs. The more pain he saw, the stronger his resonance became, driven by nothing but compassion. By the time the rescue crews arrived, every survivor was breathing again. Daniel collapsed to his knees, exhausted, his body trembling. Leora caught him before he fell. "You saved them," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. Daniel smiled weakly. "Guess I finally cleaned something that really mattered." When they returned home, the galaxy waited. The story spread again, how a human janitor defied death itself to save strangers across worlds. But this time it wasn't a tale of miracle. It was a lesson. Siran spoke to the stars one final time. "Let this be known across every world," he said. "Humanity's strength is not in its weapons or wisdom, but in its heart. One man taught us that caring is the greatest power of all." That night, under the twin moons, Leora sat beside Daniel in the garden. She listened to the quiet breeze and whispered, "You gave me sound, but you gave the universe something louder." Daniel looked at her, smiling softly. "What's that?" "Hope," she said. And for the first time in history, every world, human and alien, listened to the same sound, the heartbeat of kindness echoing across the stars.